Hello and welcome to my Devtoberfest session about mastering the UI5 ecosystem. My name is Peter Müßig and I want to give you an introduction into a modern and advanced development experience for OpenUI5 and SAPUI5 development. Let's get started. The UI5 ecosystem. The key pillar of the UI5 ecosystem is the UI5 tooling. The UI5 tooling is a CLI-based command line, it's a command line interface, which provides you the capabilities to build applications or to serve them in your development time. It also comes with a set of standard middlewares, which are used to serve the resources, themes, or the version information, or standard tasks, which are used at the end when your application needs to be built for a deployment purpose. And it orchestrates these middlewares and tasks depending on the project types, being an application, library, or module, or whatever. So that's the key pillar. And the ecosystem around the UI5 tooling has been enhanced by the availability of the EasyUI5 generator. The EasyUI5 generator is the tool to be used when you want to get started with your developments locally on your machine. So the EasyUI5 generator is providing templates for UI5 applications and more. It comes by default with the project templates that's used in the scenario of building MTA-based applications for the SAP BTP. And it has been extended over the time to be open for community templates, like, for example, application templates for TypeScript-based or JavaScript-based applications, or libraries for in the scope of JavaScript or TypeScript, and tooling extensions, and much more. These community templates are partially managed together by SAP colleagues and the community. And now let's get started with the EasyUI5. So that's the thing I want to show you first, because we need to kickstart our local demo now. So in order to get started with the EasyUI5 generator, you can go to GitHub, SAP generator EasyUI5, and then you get some instructions what you need to do to install the EasyUI5 generator locally on your machine. I have done that already. I installed Yeoman and the generator EasyUI5, and with that, I'm now able to run the EasyUI5 locally. So this is my workspace for today's session. I have something already in, but I come to that a little bit later. So first of all, let's start with EasyUI5 to create my application. Sometimes it takes a bit, sometimes it's very fast, depending on how the situation is for that. But yeah, once it's running, what it will come up with now is a set of the available generators we have. So here in this case, we see we have an application generator, there's a control generator, library generator, web components library, modules, project, this project template I mentioned initially, and TypeScript application and TypeScript library. But we want to get started with a simple JavaScript application. For TypeScript, there will be also a complete separate tutorial available on YouTube. I can share the link with you for that, but I also give quickly an introduction at the end. But let's get started first with the application. It asks us to enter namespace. For today, I decided to have Devtoberfest as the main names, the main part, and then an app for the application itself. I've selected the OpenUI5 framework. I now have to select the version. By default, it recommends the latest version. And I'm the author. I want to create a new directory, but I don't want to initialize Git. And now, once it populates this new folder, it also starts to run npm install to make the project directly usable. What is worth to mention here for the project setup is that this is more or less an end-to-end setup for the project. So the project comes with a complete setup using the CLI, and it comes with a build configuration. It comes also with a testing configuration. It uses linting, and you can also run that more or less completely on this application. So if you change the folder into this app later on, you can, for example, say npm start, and this now starts up your application. I put it a little bit to the side. So this is the application which is then created by default. And we can here now click say hello and the message box comes up. This is implemented more or less as part of this template for the application. So when you want to build the application, the simplest thing you need to do is to say npm run build. This triggers the build command. And then in the dist folder, you finally see the build output of the application having the preload and so on. And when you want to run the tests, so npm test is triggering the linting, and it runs also Karma as a test runner for our UI5 application, coming with a test for a QUnit test. So we have in the test suite, we have a QUnit test, and we have also OPA test integrated of that. And is using Karma, although that's deprecated at the moment, that's from our side still usable, and it continues to work. So, but we in the future may come up with a different solution, but then the template will also get updated with a different test runner. But finally, for the moment, it provides exactly that what is necessary. And here in the coverage folder, we now get the result from the test. We see it also below. So it runs the test itself, and then it also measures the coverage. And let's take a look into the coverage results here as well. So here we see now all the folders with all the files inside, and we can drill down, for example, the component.js to see now the coverage result in that file and the places where we may need to optimize our test to test all the different code places. So basically that's what we have now around the setup for the application. So you get really quickly started. You have a complete setup, which you can also run. I want to show you now also that it's possible easily to create a library next to that and combine it, because all the reusable assets, what we typically build there, should be part of a UI library so that you can share that with multiple applications and make them available for them. So let's use EasyUI5. To create a library, I can also enter it directly, for example, here, your EasyUI5 library, and then it will trigger the library generator. And in this case, it will ask me also some questions in a second. So what is the namespace? I say devtoberfest.lib. I select OpenUI5. I want to also use the latest version. And now a new question has come in since quite some time, which asks you whether I want to have the namespace omitted. And this is by default, because this simplifies also a lot from a setup, because you don't have to repeat the namespace in the source and the test folder anymore. And thanks to the tooling 3.0, this is in the meantime possible. Yes, new directory and no GitHub, no Git in it. So, and here also the npm install runs initially to make it ready for usage. And now I see the same setup more or less for the application. I have a package, it comes with a build, it comes with a test, it comes also with the start command. And in this case for libraries, the start command typically points to the test page of the sample control, which is part of that. So let's quickly go there, devtoberfest lib. And let's call npm start. So now I can see the sample control, and it's also fully working. That's it. The same thing can be done here. I can call build and I can call test, and also for the test, I get the coverage then for the library and for this control. So, but now let's go a little bit to an advanced development experience, because typically what you had to do is to map these libraries and applications, a little bit strange. But in order to connect them locally for your development, a very easy thing is now to use npm to do that. So in order to connect this devtoberfest lib with your app, you just need to install a dependency. So devtoberfest.lib. I want to add that as a dependency to my application, and you can use the @ sign to specify typically a version, or in this case I specify the folder from where I want to connect that from, devtoberfest.lib. And as this is local next to it, I can do it like that. And then if I look into the package.json of the application, what I see here is that it adds a dependency to this devtoberfest lib, and with that, it's now available also in my application. And I can start now the development server again for my application. And when I use and look into this resource browser, I see now that in test resources, for example, the devtoberfest lib is available, and I can also start the sample from inside here. So this is now all the things what you need to do to connect your library to your application while developing. And in order, if you want to make sure that it can be added and also being deployed later on, what you can do is to use the builder and configure the builder of the UI5 tooling to say it should include the dependencies. So builder settings, then there is the include dependency option. And now we just need to specify the library we want to include, devtoberfest lib. And if I now run the build, so just to show it quickly, before there is no resources, test resources folder inside. So let's run the build quickly again. What happens now is it says, okay, I found lib should be also built with that. And now it builds also all relevant projects for this lib, so it depends on. And this takes quick, it's not so much, but it's also necessary because UI5 is shipping the sources for these libraries. And in order to build finally, we need to also ensure that all the assets are properly built also for the dependent libraries. And now at the end, what we get is that in the resources folder, we find devtoberfest lib. And we find also in the test resources devtoberfest lib, and it's available there. And it can be then deployed into a development server. If you would now use this control, what you can do is also, or should do, you need to maintain the resource roots at some place. So typically, if you deploy to systems having active components inside, managing the resolution of this library namespaces to the path, then this is not necessary. But in this case, if you do it like here, then we need to put also a mapping here inside. So devtoberfest.lib is pointing now typically to /resources. Then you need to also repeat the namespace, devtoberfest/lib. And doing that, it would then also at runtime resolve to the resources from here when this namespace is being used. Okay, so that's it so far. And you see it's very, very simple how to connect the application, the library for your local development. And it's not a big magic anymore. You can also, for example, have now libraries coming from NPM released by others and simply integrating that in your project as a dependency. And then you can make use of them. And that's also a way how you can now share the work with each other and benefit from libraries being built by others. Okay. So let's go back into the slide. So next to the EasyUI5 generator, which helps you to kickstart your development locally, a very important piece of the whole development experience is the UI5 tooling ecosystem. So the things being built by the community and which finally enhance the UI5 tooling for custom middlewares. And there are a lot of custom middlewares in the meantime available. So everything started really some years back with the UI5 ecosystem showcase repository coming with a live reload to get this serve or save and refresh functionality for your development. And it started to be the place where it explains how to write own middlewares and own task extensions for the UI5 tooling. And in the meantime, it's really a big community around there who builds and provides custom middlewares for the UI5 tooling and for your local development experience to improve that and to get it really in a modern state. Besides the custom middlewares, the UI5 tooling ecosystem also comes with custom tasks. And for sure, these tasks then are also needed, like the standard tasks when you build your application, that you make your applications properly available for the deployment finally. And when looking into the ecosystem as well, also utilities are being created all around that. So exactly, for example, in the UI5 ecosystem showcase, we have utilities to build bridges between different technologies, like, for example, the Karma UI5 transpile plugin, which connects Karma and UI5 in case of the transpilation is being used for TypeScript that are proper. Coverage is being reported for the TypeScript sources. And on the other hand side, we also have a CDS plugin UI5, which integrates the UI5 tooling middlewares properly into a CDS server. And then you can also have TypeScript projects developed in the app folder in your CDS server, and the UI5 tooling middlewares will run to transpile the TypeScript code to JavaScript so that you can properly run these applications also in that environment without having a proper build running for that. So let's take a look into the UI5 ecosystem showcase. So this is the central place where everything started in the beginning for the ecosystem. And here in this ecosystem showcase, it has become a huge or a big mono repository in the meantime, providing several tooling extensions. Yeah, we have talked about these utilities which bridge the technologies. Yeah, but besides that, there are also a huge set of middlewares available, like UI5 middleware cap, which now does the different thing than the CDS plugin UI5 to integrate the CDS middlewares into the UI5 server. This, by the way, I will show in a second when doing the live demo, bringing some of the middlewares here together to improve your development experience. There is also the CF destination to use the app router as a proxy or synchrony with the EIA synchronizing user interaction across browsers, a middleware index to come with the index HTML page if you just enter / less compilation, the live reload, one login to automate automate the login procedure for SAML in some cases. Behind the scenes, there is a serve framework. This I also want to demo quickly how you can make use of the UI5 dependencies to serve them with their preloads, a feature which has been requested by several colleagues from the community, and there is an extension now available for that. Serve static content, proxying data sources, data services, integrate applications into other applications as dependencies, serving content from Java archives, then WebSockets. And besides that, next to the middlewares, there are also tasks available like the cache busting, less compilation to make that also to CSS, the library flattening, I18N checks for missing text, minification of XML, PWA enabler, and the well-known extension, the zipper. So this is the most used tooling extension available. And besides that, there are also 3 tooling extensions which are middlewares and tasks together. They are following this naming scheme UI5 tooling. And there is this one which is usable for consuming third-party dependencies from NPM directly, which is also moving UI5 closer to any other framework because it doesn't feel any different anymore. Consuming third-party, it's just you install the dependency and then consume that. We see that live as well. And then there's string replacer and the transpilation, and this I also will show quickly when coming to the TypeScript project. So let's do a demo now of all that. So we have this application and we have this library. And what I want to do in today's demo here to showcase you this development experience is that I want to make use of the bookshop. This is the original Capire bookshop I took from the samples page, so nothing different. And let's quickly start that. npm start. So this is the server with a well-known logging, and it comes with the browse service, and this is what we want to use. We want to display the list of books, similar like this view application, which is provided as part of the demo application does, in a table. And that's what we want to do, and now we want to do it with UI5. So let's go to the application. So typically, if you want to consume these services, what we have done so far is to use the simple proxy to consume them. So I just will do that now to get you all on the page. UI5 middleware simple proxy. We install that as a dev dependency. If you want to look also what these npm packages or these tooling extensions are doing, you can always go to npm and enter the name of these dependencies here, or go to the UI5 ecosystem showcase project and then go to the README of this individual tooling extensions. And here, all these plugins or tooling extensions follow the same pattern. They explain how to install that. They explain the configuration options it's provided. It also does a usage example below. And here I just grabbed now the configuration from that page. That's the easiest way how you can then also grab the things when you want to put that into the UI5 YAML of your application. And now we put it here up front of the UI5 middleware live reload. Somehow the indentation is a bit weird. So now indentation is really important when it comes to YAML. And it's really important also that the live reload is at the end, because from a processing order, if everything is put then into compression, then the last one added to the compression will be sorted in the beginning. And so the execution order of the last one added to after middleware to this compression will be executed first later on. So that's also good to know. But now I want to map the browse here to localhost 4004 and browse. So this is all. And I start already my application now. The CAP server is running behind the scenes. And I can now access the metadata through my simple proxy now. What I need to do now is to add a table to my application here. So let's go to this one. Let's clean first up the main view XML of that. So I want to use a page. I throw out all the properties which are not necessary anymore. And in the page content, I put now a table. So I first save it. Now it's there is only the button. And now I have some hints here. I copy just from here the table now. So, and then I put the table as content into the page. Now I see here the Oktoberfest app and no data is there. Yeah, for sure. I missed to add the OData model to the manifest. So this is the other thing I need to do. I pin the manifest now here and I pin the template now here. So first thing I need to add is the data source in the SAP app section. It's a OData v4 data source. And I need to configure the default model pointing to that data source. Go a bit below. I add an N. And now I add the default model. So that should be all already. It's a mock UAA, so I can add any user. And hooray, the data is being displayed. And now I'm properly connecting to this data service. So that's the easy one now, but it has the downside that you now need to start the CAP server always behind the scenes. And if you forget that, so I stopped it now, it just doesn't display any data because the connection is refused. But there is a new UI5 tooling extension available, the UI5 middleware CAP. And this UI5 middleware CAP, this allows to connect directly the middleware of a CDS server with your UI5 tooling, and it's running then embedded in the server of the UI5 tooling. And all what we need to do is to just add the dependency to this middleware CAP as a dev dependency to our app project. And then we need to just configure that in the UI5 YAML. It's configuration free by default. So let's comment out the service here, this simple proxy. And we now use the middleware CAP. And there is one thing missing. What you need to do as well is that you need to install now a dependency to this CDS server project. So I can now say npm install add caphire/bookshop and let that point to /bookshop. So now, here, I don't want to have that as a dependency. This should just be a dev dependency, so I move it up into the dev dependency section, just to be safe that this is not really a transient dependency of the project when using that. And with that, I'm just ready and I can start off again and run the server. And now when starting the server, we see already that the log is coming, and we see UI5 middleware cap found the CDS server module at cap hire bookshop, and it starts up the cap services, and now it's listening on port 8080 it mentions, and this is the port of the UI5 tooling. And now if I go to browse, for example, yeah, for sure, then also the metadata is available. And the advantage of that is that the UI5 middleware cap is aware about all the services passed and allows to map them or make them available for your application in general. And if you do changes in the cap server, this will be also, regarding the service path, will be also reflected then for your application. There is no more proxy configuration in between. Okay. And yeah, one thing to mention quickly for the middleware cap, if you need to identify the server module because you have either multiple server modules as dependencies or it can't find automatically the server module, you can also specify the npm package name as module ID in a configuration. And then it looks up this specific module from the npm dependencies, because by default, it tries to investigate the structure, and if the folder of this project has a DB and a serve, or in the package JSON there is a CDS property, then this will be detected as the server module, and then this will be assumed to be the server module by default. So, and in any case you want to change that, use the module ID, and with options you can also override the default options with which the server is starting, like with mocks true and in memory true, and you can specify also another value here. Okay, that was the consumption part. As I mentioned, also what I want to show you is how you can easily consume npm packages. It's always something where I get questions around, and ideally it's very, very trivial, because if you want to use third-party dependencies in all other frameworks, the only thing what you need to do is at the end run npm install and use this third-party OSS and add it as a dev dependency to your project or as a dependency, and then you can consume that. And we want to have it, or we get it also in a similar way for the UI5 tooling. So let's close that a little bit. And what I want to do now is that we have seen the View Bookshop app, and it didn't have nice visualization, but I want to have now a nice charting below the table, which shows and presents the stock in a bar chart. For that, I want to consume chart.js. And in order to consume chart.js, yeah, for sure, we can also integrate it with the CDN and then have the things available like that, but it's not really self-contained. And what I want to do is I want to use my library I have here to provide me control for this chart.js, with which I can render a chart with some chart items in a bar chart. And I want to map that then using data binding to my data model. So when I see how it gets started, I don't want to follow the CDN way. I want to now follow the NPM way, and I want to use the chart.js as a dependency. So let's go to the library. I open a second shell, oktoberfest.lib, and I install now the library. So I have it already in the clipboard. So now what we have done is we added the chart.js library here in the project. And in order to make UI5 able to use this chart.js library, we need to also bring that bridge in. And this bridge is the UI5 tooling modules. We add it as a dev dependency. So it's also available if you are interested then in more details, what you can configure here in npm. And by default, you don't need to know much. It's really configuration free, basically, because what it does at the end, it's making the these npm packages available in the UI5 namespaces. So the server, if it gets a request to resources/chart.js, then it can resolve that from the npm, from your node modules npm dependencies. And that's what's technically happening. So let's install that, and I can show you how this looks like. So in this library, we add the UI5 tooling modules middleware. So UI5 tooling asterisk projects, they are following these naming conventions that they have the UI5 tooling module, so the npm package name, and then dash middleware or dash task if they include both, while normal UI5 middlewares or UI5 tasks just use their npm package name for their custom middleware name. This is a kind of a naming pattern. So, but that's all in order to start consuming an npm package. So now starting up that application here, the test page, I can also now say resources/chart.js. And this is one thing I know now because from the page, it says if I want to integrate that, I should use chart.js auto. And typically, if I write a dependency in UI5 in the AMD, then I also want to use exactly that, and it adds the .js at the end. So this is what I now do here, chart.js, auto.js, and it gets you a UI5 AMD-like module you can simply require, and it's available for you in the callback for the SAPUI define or SAPUI require. So let's do that. And in order to show that now, we do it immediately with a control. So I prepared already something. The chart with a chart item and chart item renderer. I just drop them in my library. And basically, this chart is not having yet the dependency to the chart.js because I want to show that quickly to you. So the thing to make just use of that is now adding chart.js/auto. And then I get the dependency to chart.js. And with that now, having this this dependency injected here, I can now write the chart.js code below. So here you see we have, I have already put the code inside. So this creates the data. And I come to that in a second, how this looks like. And at the end here, this is the chart.js code. It creates a new instance of chart.js, puts it in a DOM ref, and then keeps the reference to that, because only the initial rendering should create a new instance of the chart.js, and all other subsequent calls should then just update the data for that. If this is annoying to you, by the way, and you see that also in your projects, you can go to the ESLint-RC JSON and say, I'm supporting ES6 here, and all modern UI5 applications and browsers support ES6, so don't bother me anymore with that. I can use modern syntax and it's good. Okay, so we have done that, and let's quickly look into how this data is being compiled and how this DOM ref looks like. Because from a chart.js integration, what we need to do is we see in some pages here that it requires a div and a canvas inside. So in the renderer for the chart, we exactly create this. We have a div and a canvas inside. The canvas gets the suffix -canvas. And then in the chart, in the on after rendering, I can say this get DOM ref, and with canvas, I get this -canvas DOM ref from being rendered inside a chart. And then this is also the canvas I want to render my chart.js into. And the chart item looks like that. It's an element, and this element has a text and a value. And now I use this information because I have an aggregation in the chart for that. So the aggregation items, these are chart items. And these are used then to compile here the data object. And this follows the structure of chart.js, like this data having labels. And then you can have multiple data sets. And then there's a label for the data set and the data points for that. And I did it similar here. And the label is the title of the chart. So we have only one data set here inside, and we map here all the data items inside. So that's basically how this works. And now let's create a small test page for that. So libraries, I showed that initially they have a test page for each control. And here we use and reuse this example test page. And now we want to add this chart item to that. The chart, for sure. Oktoberfest.lib/chart. And the same we do for the chart item. And then we get chart and chart item here. And now we make a demo out of that. So we create a new chart. The chart has a title, demo chart. We have no color and we have no press event, but we have items, and items is an array because it's an aggregation. And here we put 3 chart items. Chart item have text 1, and value have, let's say, 10. And now let's do that 3 times. 2, 3, 30, 20, and save that. And now let's go to the test page for that. So it's test resources example, Devtoberfest lib, and below, hooray, we can see our chart. And it's already pretty nice, so just straightforward. So now the interesting thing is how to make use of that in your application then. And yeah, at the end, we have now a library providing additional chart items and charts. And we can now, as we have already a dependency to that in our application, we can make use of that. So typically what we should do if we are dependent on another library and load that, for sure in the manifest, we should ensure that we add it as a dependency to our project. So devtoberfest.lib, add it here. That's one thing. And then on the other side here in the view, I want to now make use below the table from that chart. So therefore, I add the namespace to my library, dtlib, and say devtoberfest.lib. This is the thing I want to reference. And now I prepared already this little snippet, even if it's not much, but this saves me a few seconds and a few errors. And now below the table, we put the chart library, and this chart library gets, or the bar chart gets the title stock. And then we map the items against books, and the chart item is then putting the title and stock in there. So saving that. And now let's run the app again and see that together. Oh, it doesn't work. And here, this is important to know. That's a good hint. So if you consume third-party via the UI5 tooling modules, then this will not work when you are consuming that in the application unless the library is being built. We also come to that building part in a second. And you consume it as a build dependency. But during the development, you also need the development, also this middleware, this UI5 tooling modules middleware, in order to run the application from inside, so the chart library from inside here. So we also need to install UI5 tooling modules as a dev dependency to the application, because with that, the resolution of the via the resources path works then as well. And this needs to also be included then in the application itself. So we need to also add here the configuration for the UI5 tooling modules middleware. No configuration is necessary. And then if we start again, we should be able to see now the chart under our table. And hooray, now the stock is properly visualized. So for development, this is all good. And what is also interesting is with the whole setup of live reload and of how the things are playing together, you could for sure also make modifications here inside. For example, in the library, I can, let's say, change the way how the rendering works or how the content is being created. So let's go, but now let's go to the right one. So I go into the lib again, and in the source folder, I modify now how the chart title is being created. So I can also say XXX in front and save. And now you will also see that the refresh takes place because live reload is also aware in this setup, for example, that there are dependencies from the app to the library. And in case of a change in the app library and the library happens, the app also reloads. And this is also fantastic because now you don't need to mind on yourself where you are developing in. If you are in this development scenario where you put all the things together, you can also benefit from this advanced development experience that things are refreshing properly when you change something. And the UI5 tooling, UI5 middleware live reload, which is here behind the scenes, this does that all behind the scenes to know about how the project is being put together. So maybe one thing, if I got it also, and I mentioned it also in the beginning when going over the UI5 ecosystem showcase, what is sometimes annoying is that when you are in the development mode, a lot of resources are being loaded here. And if these resources are loaded, then this is due to the fact that by default we are shipping with the UI5 tooling the development sources, and then all the individual sources are being loaded. But after getting the feedback from different people, I decided also with some help to implement a tooling extension, the UI5 middleware serve framework. And this is quite interesting because we added as a dev dependency -d. And with the UI5 middleware serve framework, if we embed that now here, we are now able to serve the build version of the UI5 framework locally. Middleware serve, I need to enter that manually, framework. So, and the first time you start and you didn't run it, it will build the framework which is configured in your project. So OpenUI5 in the version 1.19.0, it will build all the available libraries for OpenUI5 and put it in a local cache in your user's home directory, so that the next time you start the your server with the serve framework middleware, that it's not being necessary to be rebuilt again. So, and in my case, I did that already up front. So it took me, depending on your machine, 2 minutes, 5 minutes to build the framework. But now what I get as a result is that now I see much less resources requested because now the preload of the libraries from the framework is available. And here in this case, it doesn't provide for my development scenario the preload because I didn't build and ship the library so far. But this is now what comes out of the box when you're using this framework. And this also optimizes your round trips by far because you don't need to load this many individual files anymore. And with that, you also come back to an offline scenario with build resources, which are also locally kept, and it can also be created locally while you are offline because the build happens locally on your machine. But it needs to have all the dependencies for sure for the OpenUI5 library available from npm locally, and this happens when you are touching this first. Okay, so you have seen that. One last thing, I forgot that when talking about the UI5 tooling modules, it's about the build part and when you want to deliver it. I didn't talk about that yet, and this is now also the last thing I want to explain today on that part. This is something what you can do as well. So we didn't talk about the builder so far, but for sure there is also a custom task available for the UI5 tooling modules, and this comes after the replace version. So you can also see that here, and this is the task. After task for sure, after task. And we can also see that quickly here. It also is explained there quickly. So this UI5 tooling modules task ensures that when you build your library, that it also copies includes the third-party dependencies in the project. So otherwise this won't be there. Now let's quickly build that. It should not take too long. Then we can see in the dist folder what happens. So I included now this tooling modules task here. And at the end of the build, what we can see here is in the namespace of the library, we see now here that next to the Devtoberfest, there is also resources Charge.js available. So, but it's not included in the library as such. It's next to it, because typically if you would deploy that now, that would also work the same way like it was resolved now at runtime. But, and this is the thing I really want to give you at hand, there is a configuration option you should also use when it comes to deployment. Add to namespace, true. And if you run the build now with add to namespace true, keep in mind what you had seen as a structure, it was next to the library. What happens now with the third party is that it will be embedded into the namespace of the library. So looking into the dist resources now, we don't see it next to it anymore. So Devtoberfest lib, and then we see a third party folder, and inside the third party folder, Charge.js is being available. And what also the important thing of that is, in case of you are using that, it will also ensure that it rewrites here the dependencies where it's being used. And this makes it then really transportable, and also will rewrite not only the JavaScript parts, it will also rewrite when it's used in an XML view. And with that, you can also then use a localized way of your third party in your application or in your library, and it will ensure that this is then scoped for your own. So that's really a pretty interesting thing. So, but that's so far enough from that part. I just want to finish up now with one thing. So if there is TypeScript development necessary and you are interested in that, there is also a template available for TypeScript development. It's the TS app for the application. It provides the same capabilities like this JavaScript app, but now with a TypeScript flavor. And the same thing is available for the library. And with that, let's quickly create just the application, and then I can end that part, devtoberfest.app, TS app for sure in this case. OpenUI5 119, yes, this is me. I don't want to have Git. Now it runs, and this creates now an application for TypeScript having, it comes with a TS config, which is predefined, having the types properly configured and all your local path of the application. It comes with Karma testing, so it does also the coverage testing here inside. You have the same thing like you know from the JavaScript on a TypeScript level. And here, the speciality of this project, if you look now into the project configuration as such, is that it uses here the tooling extensions for transpiling. So these projects make use of Babel transpiling. And also here, by default, it's configuration free. So you don't need to configure anything. It detects automatically from the project what it needs to be done here by the existence of the TS config. It knows it's a TypeScript project. For sure, this transpiling can also be used for JavaScript project if you want to transpile it back to an older release or so. And in case of the TypeScript project, you also don't need to have a Babel RC or something available, because it by default generates a default Babel RC, which looks exactly like that it uses the preset env with the defaults, browsers, target set. It uses the transform UI5 to allow you to use the ES modules and ES classes. And it comes with a TypeScript transpilation to convert back TypeScript to modern JavaScript, and then the transform runs. So it's handled backwards to the beginning. But it's just a quick talk about that. There is a nice tutorial from Andreas Kunz available, which in which you get introduced to the TypeScript development in more details. I put also the link in the chat or in the bottom in the description for the video, so that you can also have a look into that and follow up with TypeScript. And keep in mind also for that the UI5 ecosystem is necessary as providing the proper tooling extensions. So let's come back after this excursus into the demo world, into the slide deck, and finish up with two things I would like to mention as well. There is Best of UI5 in the ecosystem also available, because this Best of UI5 provides a nice way of looking up existing generators for the easy UI5 generator. It also provides an overview on existing tooling extensions, not only available in the UI5 ecosystem showcase, also developed by other people in the community and other repositories. It also gives an overview on applications, modules, custom controls, libraries being available for you. You can also include them as dependencies for sure. And it comes also with additional commands and VS Code extensions. So take a look in bestofui5.org. It also provides really a nice overview on what's available for the UI5 ecosystem. And yeah, you see here also some of the modules listed, hot packages, which are maybe recently deployed. You can also go to all packages and see them sorted by the most used ones. So the task zipper is really next to the mock server, one of the most used ones coming from the ecosystem here. And the live reload follows here. So you can really get some insights, how many downloads these things have. And this is really massive in the meantime. You can also use some checks like this tags or some helpers to search things like this tags, where you go, for example, everything from the UI5 ecosystem showcase. Then you get some insights in that. You can see applications and so on. Yeah. Play around with that. You see also highlights on who contributed how much into that. And unfortunately, I'm only on the 3rd place yet, and Arno and Volker are in front of me. But it's a kind of nice challenge. And also feel free, if you develop own tooling extensions, applications, whatever, then you can also contribute to the best of UI5 by adding your own package and get it listed here on that. So I really invite you to participate here in our community. So, and last but not least, there is also a huge community for sure around that who helps to build this ecosystem. And for that, yeah, we are talking in many activities, being now the Devtoberfest or UI5Con. There's a newscast, a podcast for that. The UI5 Live takes place. Yeah, there is, I can also go out of the tech cloud. There is a inside tracks are available. There is TechEd where it's being presented. Yeah, for sure, there is many activities around in the ecosystem and where it's mentioned and used and explained and yeah, showed. And for sure, there are also a lot of channels how you can reach out to us. There is the SAP community where you can have and follow up on blog posts and ask questions there. You can join the OpenUI5 Slack and ask questions. Go to OpenUI5.org, find the channels there. And you can find there also this YouTube channel I mentioned where Andreas put, or we put this TypeScript yeah, overview. And for sure, Stack Overflow is also a place where questions can be asked and answered for you. And with that, I want to conclude. The center of the gravity for the ecosystem, this is the UI5 tooling. If you want to get started, then this is the easy UI5. There you find a lot of templates to kickstart your development. When you want to pimp your development experience, use things from the UI5 tooling ecosystem. And in Best of UI5, this is the place where you can discover more. And if you want to learn, explore, and connect with us and with the community, then follow one of our channels in order to, or yeah, come to our channels, to our activities, and get in touch with us. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attendance to my session. I hope you enjoyed it. It was just a real subset of the whole thing which is available there, and there's much more, and I could talk much longer on that. But I hope that you are getting inspired by what's possible in nowadays, and feel free also to come up with own ideas. And with that, I would really like to thank you again, and I would say happy coding with the UI5 tooling, with the UI5 ecosystem, with UI5 as a framework as such, and inspire us, and we inspire you, and let's see what we can do together in the future. With that, thank you and enjoy Devtoberfest. Ciao.